About a year ago, I was driving in my car.
That's where all good ideas happen.
You start thinking in the car, I'm like, I get so many calls from HR professionals and so many calls from employers, small businesses, and they have an employee whose wages are getting garnished, or they took out 2 or 3 401k loans. And I started doing some research, and I found out that 51% of Americans have a debt or credit problem of some sort. It may not.
A huge number.
It's crazy. And it may not be their fault. It may be a collection account. It may be just a small item, but it's still weighing on them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found out that 80% of employees handle their financial problems while they're on company time. And then I did more research. So I was going down this rabbit hole of research. And I found out that employers are losing $7,000 per year per employee in productivity. Wow. Due to financial stress only. Not any other stresses, not family stress, not anything else, but just financial stress. I was like, there has to be some way to help this. And so that's where I developed a program called Employees Are Assets. Because really, if you appreciate your employees, they appreciate. So it's kind of a play on they will appreciate you, and they go up in value the more you believe in them and the more you help them. And so basically it removes the employer from having to deal with their employees' financial issues, because that's always one of the big concerns employers have. I just don't want to know. I don't want to know what their financial problems are, because they're just going to ask for more money.
Right.
And really studies have shown that employees don't want more money. I mean, everyone wants a raise, but they don't necessarily want a huge increase. They just want support and resources.
Yeah.
And so when I was developing this program, I was trying to come up with ways to make it very easy for the employer, and then very easy for the employee to get help that they need, that they're embarrassed to ask for.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I developed this program. I wrote a white paper. It came out about a month ago. And it's been an interesting progress that's come along with this program.
So how does the program work? You contract with the employer?
Yeah. So I sign a contract directly with the employer. The employer pays a flat fee. The flat fee is very affordable. We're talking about attorneys' prices and how they can get out of control. It's actually very affordable when you look at the cost that the workplace is having with these employees. And it's based on the number of employees that there are. And once the employer signs the contract, then the employee gets information on how to schedule a session. Mm-hmm. So they get whatever kind of session they want. They can have a debt strategy, which means they have collection accounts. They may be looking at a bankruptcy. They may have some issue. They don't know what their rights are. Mm-hmm. A lot of the ones I do are credit strategy, because they want to buy a house. And a lot of people's credit reports aren't in good shape to buy a house, but they could be.
Right.
And so they're applying for mortgages, they're getting denied, they don't know what to do. And so the credit session isn't necessarily they have bad credit, it's just they're not sure what to do in order to set themselves up to buy a house.
I also, a lot of sense in the Bay Area too.
Right, and we get a lot of people too that the houses here are really expensive, and to be able to qualify for some of these mortgages, you kind of have to do some magic to make all that work.
Yes.
And so I found out that those are very rewarding sessions. It's really fun to sit down with people and say, okay, you want to buy a house in a year. Here's what we need to do with your credit report. I do a lot of post-financial stress sessions where they either filed bankruptcy or they went through a short sale or foreclosure, and they need to rebuild their credit. Mm-hmm. And people don't talk about that. They don't talk about how to rebuild. Everyone thinks that they can't buy a house for 7 years, you'll never get employed, all that stuff.
Right.
And you can buy a house 1 year after bankruptcy. You can have a 700 credit score a year after bankruptcy, but you have to do very specific things. And so that session has been interesting to see the people who come even 3 or 4 years later, they never rebuilt, and now we're trying to rebuild them. Right. Identity theft. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of identity theft these days with the Equifax and that kind of thing. So that's one of the sessions I offer too, which may not be anything the employee did,
right?
But they don't know how to fix it.
Right. And this is all confidential to the employer, right? The employer has no visibility into this.
The employer sees, the only thing the employer gets is a report of the number of people who use the program. They don't get any information on individual sessions. It's all attorney-client privileged. And the reason for that was to keep the employer out. And also, employees are embarrassed. They don't want all the stuff to get back to their employer.
Right.
Or HR even.
Right.
And so the way the contract is set up is it's a third-party payee, so the employer pays the fee, and the employee gets the attorney-client privilege benefit of it. The employee also gets discount. If they decide they need additional legal services, they do get a discount with the law firm going forward for any bankruptcy or debt credit issues that they have. So
additional time.
Yeah, so if they want to buy it or they want coaching, I do a lot of coaching to keep the costs down. again, I try to give a free option, a middle cost option, and then a full service option so that people can decide what they
What
need.
works for them.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. And so I'm discovering a lot of employers don't realize how much this is costing them in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they do realize, they're kind of like, okay, we really need to look into this and figure out how this is going to work.
But they don't know how.
Right.
Until I talked to you, I hadn't really thought about it too much, even as somebody who'd been in HR for
Right.
almost 20 years. How would I deal with that? What would I do? Where would I send them? So your program is a great option for all employers to be looking into and as an additional perk for employees. Again, keeping them happy.
Exactly. Well, if you keep them happy and then you also keep them less stressed, it makes your insurance premiums go down, your health insurance premiums go down. They say 70% of health ailments are due to stress.
Stress related.
So, I mean,
Absolutely.
So just reducing workers' comp claims. I see that a lot too, where we're looking at workers' comp claims. The employee has either been stressed for financial reasons and they have accidents at work.
Right.
Because they're distracted.
They're distracted. Yeah.
So it can delve into a whole bunch of different areas that can reduce costs, not just the productivity of the employee.
Absolutely.
So it's been a really interesting program. I've liked setting it up, and now it's running. And so a recent proposal that we did, we actually are doing a training session for HR and mid-level managers on how to identify employees who may be going through financial stress without embarrassing them, and how to direct them to the right resources, because their biggest thing
That is a great training module.
So yeah, that's what we brought in. This is a bigger company. They have 500 employees.
Yeah.
And so we were trying to figure out how to bring this program in so that it, first of all, gets utilization, because the employer's return on investment depends on the number of employees who use it, because it's a flat fee,
Right.
no matter who uses it or not. And so we're trying to get the return on investment to be as high as possible for the employer.
That's fantastic.